In this tutorial, I'll walk you through every step I used to create this pizza. Let's go. Let's start off with the bottom, so press Shift A, add a mesh, and add a circle. In the left bottom, click on Add Circle, change vertices to 24. Press Tab to go into Edit mode, change into Top View, and press F to fill, and then I to inset. And then X and F to delete the center face. Go into Face Select, and select all but 4 faces. Press X and F to delete all the faces. Press Ctrl R to add a loop cut and scroll up to add 3 loop cuts. Left click and right click to confirm. Zoom in a bit, go into Vert Select, and then select these 3 middle vertices. Press G and Y and move them out a bit so you have a nice round ending of your slice. Press A and then E to extrude up. And here you can choose how thick you want your crust to be. So I'm gonna do it like that. And then in Face Select, I select the outer faces by holding Shift. Press E and extrude them up. Then go into Edge Select. Select this and the outer edge. And then press Ctrl B to bevel. And bevel it like that. Leave edit mode, press Ctrl 3. Go to your modifiers tab and change render to 3. Go back into edit mode, and then we're going to add some loop cuts. So press Ctrl R, add a loop cut there, and on the other side. Then I want to add a loop cut there, and then add a loop cut right there. And that's our slice. So right click, shade auto smooth. Select the slice. Press Tab, go into edit mode, select face select, and then we're gonna select the top faces. Press Shift D to duplicate and then set to move it up. Press P and separate it by selection. Leave edit mode, select your new object, go back into edit mode, and then we'll move it down. We'll go into edge select, and then we'll select the outer edges. Like that, and then we'll press E to extrude, and just a tiny bit down, and then E to extrude again. And then we'll add a loop cut right there, and then add some extra ones. We'll add 2 there, and then we'll add 1 loop cut there. Then we can press A, and then G and Z, move it down. Like that, and then we'll scale it with S and X so it reaches outside of the crust. Then we go into Vert Select. Now we'll make the dripping cheese, so just move down some verts so it looks like a nice cheesy drip. And the other side, press A and then Alt E, and then choose extrude faces along normals, and then press S while you're extruding, and we'll extrude it like that. And that will be our cheese. Now we'll go into top view, and then I'm gonna go ahead and scale it down a tiny bit again on the x-axis, just like that. Okay. Now select in top view, select both the cheese and the crust, and then press G and Y and move it out a bit. Just a tiny bit. And then press period and change your pivot point to 3D cursor. And now press Alt D to make a linked duplicate. Then RZ 60. And then Shift R, Shift R, Shift R, Shift R. There we go. There's our pizza. Then we'll go and add the toppings. Now you can add any toppings you want. I'm going to be adding pepperoni, olives, and basil. But you can just pick the toppings you like yourself. I like banana on pizza. Don't judge me. And then we'll start by adding a circle. Press G and Z, move it up. go into edit mode, scale it down, press F to fill, E to extrude it up, and then we'll add a bevel modifier. We'll add with 4 segments and we'll decrease it. Right click, shade auto smooth, and I'm gonna add a subdivision modifier as well by pressing Ctrl 2. Go into top view, and then with G I can move it around, and then I'll go into edit mode, and then press A, press period again, change it to median point, and then scale it down. Just like that. And then I'll place it there, and then we'll place it G, Z there. And I'm gonna change the levels and renders of the subdivision to 3. And then we'll go into top view. And now with Alt D, you can make a linked duplicate and just place them around on the whole pizza. Okay, and then you can also, if you want to, adjust the sizing of some of them so they're not all the same size, but you don't have to. There we go. Then we'll add some olives. So we'll start with adding circle, move it up, go into edit mode, scale it down, fill it with F, then press I to inset, then press X and F to delete the face, press A to select all, E to extrude up. And then you can shift click the pepperoni piece and then press Ctrl and M, P to duplicate the modifiers, right click, shade auto smooth, and then we'll scale it down, go into top view. That seems like a decent sizing. And then the same with the pepperoni, you can just place it around the whole pizza. Like that, and then we'll select all of the olives and then move them down to place them on top of the pizza. Let's have a look. Just like that. Then we'll add the basil leaves. Press Shift A, add a plane. Go into edit mode, scale it down. Scale it up in the Y-axis. Go into top view, add 2 loop cuts. Move them down a tiny bit. Then select the top one, scale them down in the X-axis. Scale that one down a tiny bit. And then the bottom ones all the way. Then we'll add a loop cut and we'll bevel it with 3 lines, and then we'll scale this one down. And then we'll select these 2 with edge select, press G and Z, move them down a tiny bit. Go into vert select, select the middle vert, activate proportional editing by clicking on the icon or pressing O on your keyboard. Then G and Z and move it up just a tiny bit, so it adds a nice small curve. And press A and E to extrude up. And then leave edit mode, press Ctrl 2 to add subdivision, and then auto smooth. Like that. Then we'll go into top view. You can disable proportional editing, scale it down, and then place it all over your pizza. Just like that. Select the basil leaves, and then G and Z, move them down and place them on top of your pizza. Like that. Now we'll add the board. So press Shift A, add a circle, and then go into edit mode, and then in top view, scale it up a bit so it covers the pizza. And then we'll press RZ 7.5 and then press F to fill it, and then I to inset it. Then go into edge select, and we'll select this edge here, and we'll press E and Y and extrude it in the Y axis. And then we'll add a loop cut here And then we'll scale that up in the x-axis a bit. There we go. Then press A and E and extrude it down. And then leave edit mode. Press Ctrl 3 to add a subdivision. And then we'll add a loop cut right there and then bevel it. And then we can add one here as well. There we go. And then right click, shade smooth. Then we'll start with the camera setup. So we'll go into front view and then we'll press Shift A, add a camera. Go into camera view, press G and Z twice. Move it down. And there we go. Go into your output settings, change the resolution to 1920 by 1920. Press G and Z, move your camera up. And R and X, and then aim it down. Like that. And I now notice that some of the salamis are floating. So we're gonna place them correctly real quickly. There we go. And then I also wanna place those like that. Okay, go back into camera view. And now we'll select one of the slices here. Select everything that's on it. And then press G and Z. Move it up. And then R and X. And R and Y. And then we'll select everything. Press R and Z. Rotate it a bit on the Z axis. Maybe 20. And then R and X. And then we'll rotate it on the X by 15. Like that. And then we'll select the board. Press G and Z. Move it down. And then G and Y and G and X and move it a tiny bit out of position. And then you could even press R twice and rotate it a tiny bit more so it has a bit of a different rotation than a pizza. And then we'll select the whole object and move it up. Select the camera, move it a tiny bit closer. Like that. Okay, then I want to have some of the toppings floating around. Select one of the pepperonis, press Shift D, and then rotate it. Press right click, change the origin to geometry. And then with R you can rotate it a tiny bit. And then with Alt D, make a link duplicate, place it somewhere else on the scene. Alt D again. And then we'll place one there. And then move it back a tiny bit with G and Y. We'll select an olive and press Alt D to make a link duplicate. Press R twice, rotate it a tiny bit. Make another link duplicate. Place it there, and then let's make another one and maybe a bit higher up and rotate it some there. Then we'll choose one of the basil leaves, make another link duplicate. Double R to rotate it. And then place them around a tiny bit. There we go. Maybe one right there. There. I like that composition. Then we'll start adding a background. So press Shift A to add a plane. Press D and Z to move it down. Go into edit mode, scale it up. And then go into edge select, select the back edge, press E and Z and extrude it up. Then we'll select this edge here, press Ctrl B to bevel and scroll up to add some more loop cuts. Like that, leave edit mode, right click, shade smooth. And now we'll go into our render settings, change the engine to cycles, device to GPU compute. We'll change the render samples to 128 and here we'll change it to 512, and then in color management change the look to medium high contrast. And then we'll press Z and change our shading to rendered. And we'll start adding some lights. So press Shift A, add a light, add an area light. Press G and Z to move it up. And then here I see quite a bit of shadow. So select the background and move it down and scale it up, just so we don't see the shadow on the bottom. Select the area light again, go into your lighting settings. Let's change the power to 150. We'll change the shape to disk and the size to 2. And then this seems quite strong, so we'll move the light up a tiny bit. And there we go. And then we'll press period and change our pivot point to 3D cursor. Press Shift D to duplicate the lamp. Press R and X and then 45. And then R and Z and press 45 again. And then you can press Shift D to duplicate RZ 90 minus. And then we'll want to move this light back. So press G and Z twice and then move it back. And then we can move this one back a tiny bit as well. There, that looks pretty nice. Then we'll press period, change the pivot point to median point, select the top light, press Shift D and Y to move it back, R, X, 45 to give it an angle, and then we'll move it down so it's a nice light on our background. We'll change the power to something like 400. There, and we'll have it right there. Okay, let's start adding some materials. We'll start with the background. We'll give it a nice purplish color. So go to your material settings, add a new one and call it background. And then we'll change the base color to D6BFE7. And then we'll add the materials for the board. So we'll go into our shading tab and then we'll go into our camera view right there. Press Z and change our shading to rendered. And then with the board selected, press new, call it board. And then we'll add a texture coordinate. So press Shift A and then search texture coordinate. Shift A, search mapping. And then add a Musgrave texture. Then we'll add a noise texture. And then we'll add a color ramp. Like that. Then we'll connect them. So the texture coordinate to the mapping to the Musgrave to the noise to the color ramp, and then the color ramp to the base color. And there we can see our texture. So then we'll start adding some colors to it. So in the color ramp, for the dark color, we'll choose 663F38. And then for our light color, we will use FFB493. Now if we go into our material preview, we can see that the pattern is a bit messed up here. So we'll change the scaling in our mapping node. And then I think it's with Z we change this, so we can scale it down a tiny bit. There, and that looks pretty good. Yeah, I like how that looks. Okay, perfect. Then we'll add our texture for the crust. So select the crust, add a new material, call it crust. And then we'll just add a texture coordinate. We'll add a mapping. We'll add a noise texture. And we'll add a color ramp. Connect all of them again. Just like that. Then we'll change our colors for the color ramp. For the dark color, we will use 944713. And then for our light color, we will use CC8C65. Like that. And then we can once again play around a bit with the scaling if you want to. You don't have to. If you like the result, you can increase it and just see the effect of it. But I'm just going to scale the Z down to 0. And then that's it. Just a soft texture on it. Okay, I'll go back into camera view and go to camera view, and I'll go into rendered shading. Then we'll add our material for our cheese. So select the cheese, add a new material, name it cheese. We'll change the color to E7B256. Change our roughness to 0.2. Perfect. And then we'll pick the pepperoni, add a new material, call it pepperoni. We'll change our base color to E7463D. And then we'll change our roughness to 0.3. And then we'll select the other pepperonis as well. You can just click one, shift click, and one that has a material, then press Ctrl L and then M to link the materials. Just like that. Then we'll select one of the olives, add a new material, name it olive. We'll change our base color to 3D, 3D, 3D. And then we'll change our roughness to 0.3. And then we'll pick the basil. And then we'll add a new material, call it basil. We'll change our base color to 15D85B. And then change the roughness to 0.3 again. Just like that. And then we can change our world colors. So if we go back to layout, and then we'll select the world settings, and then for the color, we'll use AD26A6. Like that. And then we're basically done. I do kind of want to change the lighting a tiny bit. I'm going to move this one a tiny bit closer. I'm going to also move this a tiny bit closer. There. I think that looks much better. And then all you have to do is render. Thank you for joining me in this tutorial. If you found any part of it unclear or have questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section below. If you decide to share your amazing artwork on Instagram, don't forget to tag me. I'd love to see your creations. If you found this tutorial helpful, consider supporting the channel by subscribing and liking the video. And remember, practice makes perfect, so go ahead and experiment with the skills you've gained. Thank you for watching and good luck.